Before there was Roswell, before there were flying saucers spotted over Mount Rainier, there was the Maury Island incident.
It's gone virtually unnoticed, though, for 65 years, but now it is getting new life in the form of a movie and even a celebration in Burien.
KOMO 4's Matt Markovich takes us back to that UFO mystery that started a flood of sightings.
The mysteries of UFOs may never be explained, but what happened in Puget Sound in June of 1947 is getting new life. That's when Harold Dahl, salvaging logs, said he saw flying saucers. One was in trouble, dropping molten hot debris, killing his dog, burning his son. He told no one. He was then visited by a man in black, followed by a mysterious plane crash, killing the two pilots, allegedly transporting debris dropped from the troubled UFO. It's all known as the Maury Island Incident.
There are just many unanswered questions, and that makes an intriguing mystery, and maybe a solvable mystery, we don't know.
In UFO lore, it's significant. It was reported 3 days before pilot Ken Arnold's famous sighting of flying saucers over Mount Rainier, the first time the term was ever used. Followed 2 weeks later by the reported alien crash at Roswell, and then the floodgates of UFO sightings opened wide.
It's not promoted like Roswell, but I always say it's the Roswell of the Northwest.
Seattle's Northwest Museum of Legend and Lore has a collection dedicated to the incident, including a piece of the B-25 that crashed near Kelso on August 1st, the first day the Air Force came into being. It became the first fatal Air Force crash ever, killing the two pilots that were on a classified mission to find evidence and speak with Dahl.
People have written it off as a hoax, and we don't know for sure if it's a hoax, but the reality of it is that two people were killed. And that is definitely not a hoax.
I knew it. This is an alien, and you guys are from some government agency trying to keep it under wraps.
Nah.
It's also significant because it's the very first reported sighting of a so-called man in black, made famous by the movie series of agents mysteriously appearing when aliens show up.
Dahl met with the men in black at a cafe in Tacoma, and this is the first incident in modern history of men in black doing this sort of thing.
But it wasn't funny in 1947.
The movie is the comic version, but the people that met them were scared out of their minds, so it wasn't very funny to them.
But now the Maury Island Incident is getting its own movie.
We think it was south of Point Robinson.
The script is based on declassified FBI documents.
It's got the first man in black. It's got great conspiracy, investigations, tragic deaths, and a guy whose life changes for the worse.
So that's going to work for the top.
In typical UFO buff fashion, the film's executive producer is building a flying saucer to crash into a 1947 Buick Roadmaster, the original man in black car.
Building a flying saucer on top of a car is okay in your mind, but quite frankly, I'm overwhelmed.
It should crash in Old Burien on the evening of April 1st as a part of a promotional stunt.
This is a Maury Island incident, but Burien can steal it. I could take it and capitalize on it. No one else has.
This flying saucer is clearly fake, but what did Harold Dahl see 65 years ago this June? Was that real?
Do you believe this is true?
Obviously the crash is true. And I think he saw something. We just don't know what he saw. And that's the real mystery.
Matt Markovich, KOMO 4 News.
Harold Dahl, the man who started it all, on Monday night, Burien will be holding the very first annual UFO Day commemorating the Maury Island Incident.
Eighth order of business, petitions, memorials, and Senate resolutions. Senate Floor Resolution 8648, the Secretary will read.
Whereas on June 21st, 1947, Tacoma resident Harold Dahl and his son allegedly sighted 6 flying discs over Puget Sound near Vashon, Maury Island, an event now commonly known as the Maury Island Incident. And whereas on June 22nd, 1947, Mr. Dahl alleges he was warned not to talk about what he saw by a man dressed in a black suit. And whereas on June 24th, 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold alleges he saw 9 unidentified flying objects near Mount Rainier. And whereas these controversial sightings helped launch a pop culture phenomenon of UFO sightings across the United States during the summer of 1947, which became known as the Summer of the Saucers. And whereas on August 8th, 1947, 2 weeks after the Washington sightings, a UFO is alleged to have crashed outside Roswell, New Mexico. And this alleged crash has since become the most well-known alleged UFO incident in history. And whereas on October 1st, 1947, Army Air Corps intelligence officers Captain William L. Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank M. Brown, who interviewed Harold Dahl about the sighting, lost their lives when the B-25 bomber they were piloting crashed outside Kelso, Washington. And whereas following the tragic deaths of Davidson and Brown, Harold Dahl publicly claimed his sightings at Maury Island was a hoax. And whereas special agents for the Federal Bureau of Investigation conducted an investigation of the deaths of Davidson and Brown and ultimately concluded that Dahl did not recant his story, but his claim of a hoax was itself a fabrication to avoid further public attention and ridicule. And whereas the FBI's conclusions of Dahl's secret were sealed for 50 years, and whereas the Maury Island incident and its surrounding circumstances have made immeasurable contributions to Washington State's cultural heritage and to popular culture worldwide, including most recent the 2014 award-winning motion picture, The Maury Island Incident, and the 2015 web series, The Maury Island Incident, produced in conjunction with the Washington Filmworks Innovation Lab and Motion Picture Competitive Program. And whereas on April 1st, 2017, the third annual Burien UFO Festival will be held in the newest hipster hangout of downtown Old Burien with a wide community participation and good humor. And whereas on the 70th anniversary of the seminal UFO sighting events, the Washington State sightings should be recognized for both their prominence and primacy in the modern era of UFO popular culture. Now therefore be it resolved that the Washington State Senate pause to acknowledge the 70th anniversary of the June 21st, 1947 Maury Island Incident, the 1947 Summer of Saucers popular culture phenomenon launched worldwide by these controversial events, and the first reference to the characters now popularly known as the Men in Black. And be it further resolved that the Washington State Senate recognize and honor the heroism and service of the Army Air Corps intelligence officers Captain William L. Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank M. Brown, who lost their lives following their investigation of the Maury Island incident when their airplane crashed outside of Kelso, Washington on August 1st, 1947. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be immediately transmitted by the Secretary of the Senate to the Air Force Historical Research Agency, to the Vashon Maury Island Heritage Association, to the Des Moines Historical Society, to the Highline Historical Society, to the Burien Historical Society, to the Longview Kelso Historical Society, and to the Washington State Historical Museum.
Thank you. Senator Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of Senate Resolution 8648.
Senator Kaiser's moved the resolution be adopted. Remarks, Senator Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an acknowledgement of the 70th anniversary of what's known as the Maury Island Incident. Today's resolution is also about so much more than that warm summer evening sighting over the calm waters of Puget Sound near Maury Island. It's about our human condition, our condition of wonder and curiosity and imagination, and the cultural significance of the Maury Island incident that challenged so many of us to think beyond the stars. Is it any wonder that here in the Pacific Northwest, in the backyard of Boeing, where humanity pushed the limits of aerospace and space exploration and flight, that the summer of the saucers actually began? We Washingtonians are accustomed to pushing the limits of imagination through our technology, our space flight, our biomedical research industries, and so it should come as no surprise that our culture follows this lead that challenges us to imagine on a cosmic scale. Look at where such visions have led us, that only once existed in our hearts and minds of science fiction readers are now parts of our everyday lives. Just ask Paul Allen and his science fiction museum at the Seattle Center, where I think he may be asked to add a copy of the award-winning film, The Maury Island Incident, to his collection. And look at where we are today with the revitalized suburban city of Burien, where on April 1st, the third annual UFO Festival will be held and celebrated. So, it is for these reasons that we take a moment to recognize the impact of the UFO phenomenon that swept our country in the summer of 1947 from Maury Island to Roswell, New Mexico, and to appreciate that its Pacific Northwestern roots is in the culture we have of imagination and innovation. I urge adoption of this resolution.
Furthermore, Senate will remain in order. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this resolution and want to thank Senator Kaiser for bringing it forward. This is so Maury Island, and Maury Island is where I live. The Maury Island incident is famous. In 1947, there were 6 UFOs sighted, 6. And recently I found out when Senator Fain was 14, he saw, I'm serious, he saw a UFO over Maury Island. So it is not that it ended in 1947, Mr. President. The incidents continue. They continue. And we have to consider that there is potential cosmic life over Maury Island. The island is famous. And for those of you who have not visited it, I would invite you. It's a very special place with a cosmic presence and the Maury Island incident. And if I do not come back someday, sir, consider that I may be on one of those UFOs. Thank you.
Senator Nelson, we're less curious where you might go than where you may have come from, Senator Nelson. Senator Chase?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this wonderful resolution. I'd also like to remind this body that it's not just on Maury Island that a UFO, one of them crashed in the hills behind where I grew up. And the reason I know about it is because Bigfoot came and told me. Thank you.
The President can only hope that the House of Representatives is keeping the media's attention fully trained elsewhere. If there are no further remarks, question before the Senate is adoption of this resolution. As many as in favor, please say aye. Many as opposed, please say no. Resolution is adopted. The President would like to recognize a few guests that we have, some distinguished visitors with us here from the team that put the film together, that produced this film. We have Stephen Edmiston, who's the screenwriter and producer. We have Scott Schaefer, who's director and producer. John White, executive producer. Would the Senate please join me in welcoming them to the state legislature? Senator Fain, is this a parliamentary point, or are you responding to the allegation that you are only 87 years old?
I have no idea where that's going.
Right.
I have seen many strange things, and I will agree with Senator Nelson that many of those strange things have come from Maury Island.